So we'll just start off. Talk to me a little bit about the campaign, how things have been going. You're not far from home. What do you expect tonight?
Like most of the events we have good-sized crowds that are very engaged. In other words, these are enthusiastic people. They ask tough questions and they expect tough answers to be given. And I love these types of events because I believe in my heart of hearts that politicians owe it to the people to stand before them and answer their questions. And I can't stand the idea of running from a debate or running from the people. Some of these crowds that we speak to are very positive. Others can be combative. What matters, though, is that they have a voice. I'm their employee. And if I can't stand in front of any crowd and defend my positions, I shouldn't be their employee. So I enjoy this very much.
Yeah, you mentioned debate. I know you haven't had the chance to technically debate with the other candidates, but I'm glad you are hosting the town hall so that you can answer those questions.
Yeah, I think it's really important, no matter the group. Let's just say, for example, most of these individuals tonight will be supporters. But I very seldom will back away from any conversation with any group, even people that naturally might be inclined to disagree with me. I still work for them, and I still have a responsibility to answer the tough questions for them. And it goes to the same point. If I can't stand before them, even if they're hostile, I shouldn't have the job. It's very important to be open and accessible to everybody.
Tough skin, yeah. So I just want to ask you about this since we're talking about the campaign.
Yeah.
How did, if at all, President Donald Trump's his recent endorsement of Cindy Hyde-Smith, did that affect your campaign in any way?
No, I don't think so. I think that it was kind of expected in some regards because he had already endorsed Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney could not stand Donald Trump. He had also endorsed John McCain, and John McCain couldn't stand Donald Trump. He had endorsed Paul Ryan. So he has a history of endorsing some of these candidates, and it begs the question precisely why would he? And our position is, and based on what we're hearing, Mitch McConnell is attempting to take that 51 votes that Trump has in the Senate and use them. And Trump needs badly those 51 votes to stick together to get his agenda items passed. And so this is a deal that Trump felt like he had to cut with McConnell. And that's why he traditionally endorses incumbents. And that makes sense. But I can tell you this, he's going to be very pleased when I win this and work with him. I really believe that. And you know, we always joke that, you know, he also gave us Jeff Sessions, and most people aren't very happy with that selection. And he's not happy with that selection. So I think he's going to be very pleased once I win this.
Okay. Hyde-Smith, she's been reported criticizing your conservatism. And I know you have a track record as a politician here in the state.
Yes.
Kind of talk about what you've done in the legislature to prove your conservative values.
Well, I've been a part of every conservative fight since I've been in the state Senate. And my record speaks to that. I'm very proud of the legislation that I've drafted. I'm very proud of the conservative fights that I've led on the floor. And because of those fights, outside groups have recognized it. I don't expect people to ever believe the word of a politician, but if you'll do the research, you'll see groups like the American Conservative Union. They've scored me objectively as the most conservative member of the Mississippi Senate. You'll see other groups like Americans for Prosperity that have received their highest award that can be given. But even more importantly, I think, groups like the Mississippi Highway Patrol, I've been their Legislator of the Year. I've been the Law Enforcement Officers Association Legislator of the Year. I've been Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Legislator of the Year. The Tea Party, Legislator of the Year. So I have the awards and the legislation and the hard work to show for it. Now granted, the establishment's always going to lie, they're always going to detract and try to find ways to get around the core issues. And hopefully people to the establishment, they want people thinking about these side issues as opposed to the singular or the important issues in the campaign. But I'm very proud of my record, and I just encourage people to look at it, not through the prism of attack ads, but through their own investigation, their own knowledge. And if they'll see it's a matter of public record.
And you questioned her conservatism.
Yes, ma'am.
And her being a full Republican. Can I talk about why you believe that?
Combination of several factors. It goes back years. She was a former federal lobbyist. And when she was a lobbyist, she lobbied for a healthcare organization that was pushing universal health care and or Obamacare. Number two, she was a elected office holder 3 terms as a Democrat. Number 3, we know from her time in the Democrat Party through sources that knew her very well that she supported and voted for Hillary Clinton. We also know she's pushed for tax increases. She's tried to impose a gun ban on state agricultural properties. We know that her biggest donor, her largest donor, is a guy named Sean Parker, who gave $250,000 to Cindy Highsmith's PAC. That PAC is designed specifically for her and to attack me. Sean Parker was Hillary Clinton's biggest donor as well. So you put all these puzzle pieces together, it's very clear that she hasn't been a Republican and she hasn't been a conservative. And that's okay. That doesn't mean she's a bad person. She ought to own it. There's nothing wrong with being a Democrat if you just own it. And that's who she always has been. So she ought to come at it from that standpoint and debate the issues.
Gotcha. Now, I know you've addressed, you've made some public comments lately that have been, some have disagreed with.
Yes.
Say that.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I do want to give you the opportunity to address that for our statewide audience.
Absolutely.
And the first one I want you to touch on the interview on the Tupelo-based radio show American Family Radio.
Right.
You suggested that only 1% of all sexual assault allegations are true. So talk about that. I know that was in response to a question about the allegations made against now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. So what did you mean when you stated that?
Right.
And
it's a matter of context. A matter of context. You know, the national press is so busy trying to take things out of context and create what's called gotcha moments, because gotcha moments sell papers and they sell interviews. If you'll look at the context of the conversation, I was specifically speaking to 30-plus-year-old allegations that seem to be politically driven. And it was a figure of expression. 99% of these are false. I was talking about a politically driven motivation from 36 years ago as a figure of speech, not specifically as to sexual assault claims. I would never have done that. That was not the intent. And the interviewer, Brian Fisher, he took it in context, the way it was supposed to be meant, and didn't think twice about it. It was only after the interview, when folks tried to remove it out of context, is when it became a problem. But I would just challenge people to go back, look at the entire interview, and look at the clause or the sentence in context with the conversation, and you'll see precisely what I meant.
okay. And another statement about MSNBC.
Right.
Good Morning Joe.
Right.
What did you mean when you said African Americans are begging for scraps, if I'm quoting you correctly?
Yeah, you're not. It was a matter of context again, so bear in mind, if you'll go back and look at the phrase and look at where I was when I said it and how I said it, I used the word weave. I was talking about the state of Mississippi generally. Now, this is an interesting conversation because of all the inflammatory things that occurred in that post-statement setting, nobody ever answered the question. And so we'll answer it again. We'll ask it again. Talking about Mississippi specifically, all of us together, after 100 years of depending on the federal government to save us, where are we today? After 100 years of Mississippians, our government, and all of us as individuals, even our corporations, begging for federal scraps, where are we today? Nobody ever answered the question. They didn't answer the question because we know where we are. We're still dead last economically. We still struggle with our educational system, and we do it because we've created an economic system that's wholly dependent on federal government assistance, whether our state, whether our people, or whether our corporations. The only way to find prosperity in the state or in any economy is to free people. And put it simply, we need jobs, not handouts. Jobs give us prosperity and upward mobility, which is what we all aspire for. Handouts don't give us upward mobility. And that was the point of the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about the entire state.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you about the contract with Mississippi. I remember when you first held a press conference and you talked about some of the pieces, and it was a pretty thick contract.
Yeah,
but if you could sum it up, what are some of those main focuses that you have?
If you were to sum it up in a single paragraph, it would deal with empowering individuals. I think in this day and age of politics, we're all so busy shouting at each other, and we're all so busy trying to label each other that we forget the core component of what we're supposed to be doing is empowering individuals, not government and not collectives. In everything that we do, in every speech that I give, and every vote that I cast, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is to make sure that you have, and I have, and he has, the maximum of individual liberty consistent with social order. I don't believe government should micromanage our lives. I don't believe government should micromanage our economic lives, or our social lives, our healthcare lives. I believe ultimately that's up to people to decide. So the contract revolves around those core components of individual liberty. Everything from term limits to tax cuts to regulatory reform, it's all about empowering the individual. And I would encourage people to check it out. It's there on the website, and I'm very proud of it, very happy about it.
Was there anything that I didn't ask that you want to also address?
I just think it's important that people understand throughout the state, because I know I'm speaking to a different audience now. Mississippi doesn't have to be dead last. We don't have to divide ourselves among collectives. We don't have to shout anymore. We can get behind a new policy, a new direction, and break up the old established ways. And here's what I mean by that. For 100 years, the same families have controlled this state. The same good old boys have controlled this state. At one point, they had D's behind their names. Now they have R's behind their names. But it's been the same contracts, the same cronies, the same friends. It's been the same machine. The people, however, didn't have a voice. They always managed to make a fortune. The machine did. They took care of their buddies, their cronies. Think about it. Same contractors, right? Same buddies. They're taken care of. They're fine. The rest of us suffer. I'm proposing a different direction. I want to break up that old cartel. I want to make sure that regular people have a voice in their government. You shouldn't have to have a lobbyist to have a voice. You shouldn't have to be a multimillionaire to have a voice. You shouldn't have to be a multinational corporation to have a voice. You're an individual, and you matter more than any of that. You should have a voice. Our government's not listening. And so all we're trying to do is wake it up and make them listen again. And that's what we're going to do, one way or the other.